Hey guys, and welcome to this video. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing my probably most highly requested top 5 drugstore video. So I'm continuing my series. For those of you that are new here, I have a top 5 series going where I talk about my top 5 favorite products within a category at the drugstore. So I'll link that playlist down below if you're interested in seeing more. For this video, I'm going to be talking primers. And as most of you know, I have oily, acne-prone skin and some larger pores right here in this area. So those are my main skin concerns. But I do have a primer in here for everyone. So whether you're oily, dry, or just looking for a basic primer, you will get something out of this video. But before we get into it, I want to go ahead and preface this by saying most people's skin is complicated and there's not just one primer that's going to fix all of your problems. Most of us have different skin concerns on different parts of our face. So if you have dry patches on your cheeks and an oily T-zone, it's not going to make sense for you to put a mattifying primer all over your face or a hydrating primer all over your face. It would make sense to put a hydrating primer where you are dry and then a mattifying primer where you're oily. So like I said, don't be afraid to use different primers on different parts of your face. So with that, let's go ahead and get into my top 5 favorite primers from the drugstore. So this first one is probably the most obvious because I just uploaded my everyday makeup routine, and obviously I'm going to be using my favorite primer on an everyday basis, and that is the Catrice Cosmetics Prime and Fine Pore Refining Anti-Shine Base. And the claims for this are that it's mattifying, long-lasting, and oil-free. And this primer applies similar to a moisturizer. It doesn't feel silicone-y at all. It just feels like a really lightweight moisturizer, but after you're done rubbing it in, it becomes tacky, and that tackiness gives the foundation or whatever product you're using next something to stick to. It's sort of like a grip on the foundation that you apply after it. It reminds me a lot of the Rimmel Stay Matte primer in terms of consistency. For those of you that are familiar with that one, it's just a tad bit more lightweight. This is the best primer that I've found for oil control for my oily skin, but keep in mind, if you have very oily skin like I do, no primer is going to keep you completely matte all day long, and that's really a good thing because it means your skin is still breathing. If you had a primer that just completely sealed in all of your pores and you had no oil coming through all day, if you have oily skin, that for me would be a red flag that my pores are about to be extremely clogged, because I do have quite oily skin, so I don't expect anything to keep me completely matte. I just find products like this help control the oil and slow down the process of the oil coming through. One thing to note with this primer is that it does dry quickly. Like I said, it becomes tacky, and it does that rather quickly. So once you start rubbing it in, be sure to get it in all the areas that you want to apply it rather quickly so that you're not trying to drag it around once it's become tacky, because that's how you're going to get primer buildup and cakey foundation. So like I said, this is my favorite for oil control and mattifying, and my overall favorite primer. The only thing it doesn't really address is my larger pores, but these next two I'm going to mention are excellent for those of you that have larger pores. And the first one that I would recommend to help fill in pores is this L'Oreal Magic Perfecting Base. Now I know this is on the pricier side, but I'm okay with it because you need the tiniest amount. This is not a primer I would recommend putting all over your face as your overall primer. I'd recommend putting a tiny bit of this only where you need it. For me, it's right here where I have large pores, and the way I apply it is I take a little bit out and kind of work it into my fingers so that it becomes tacky while still on my fingers, and then I use kind of rubbing and patting motions to work it into where I have the larger pores, and this just completely blurs my pores and makes whatever foundation I put on top of it go on so much smoother in this area where a foundation can sometimes highlight larger pores. So while I don't think this really does anything for mattifying my skin, this is the best one for creating a smooth canvas where you have a lot of texture or large pores. But again, a little bit goes a long way, so don't go overboard with this one. This next one is also great for large pores, but it's a lot thinner in consistency than the L'Oreal one I just mentioned, so you can get away with putting this one all over your face. The other one, definitely not. You're gonna have cake face, but this one you can, and it is the NYX Pore Filler. So this is very similar to the Benefit Porefessional primer. This does come out kind of a nude or beige shade, but once you work it into the skin, the pigment disappears, so don't be afraid of this if you have a deeper skin tone or a lighter skin tone. This does a great job of smoothing everything out. It's not as effective as the L'Oreal one in terms of really large pores because it's not as thick, and you want almost like spackle. You want to be spackling in those pores, but like I said, you can get away with wearing this all over your face because it is thinner in consistency. So that's kind of the downside and the upside to this one. And though it doesn't really keep me matte, I do notice a difference in the longevity of my makeup. So a foundation that would usually break up on my oily skin within 5 hours may break up within 7 hours. But it's not going to be as good as that Catrice one for oil controls. So I'd recommend for those of you looking for something to fill in those pores, but you also want to be able to use it on the rest of your face, you could use this one. This will give you the pore blurring as well as that smooth canvas to apply foundation to. This next one is excellent if you have dry or dull skin. It is a hyped up product, but it deserves all of the hype that it gets, and it's the L'Oreal Magic Lumi Light Infusing Primer. So I love this primer because you can use it in so many different ways. I have oily skin, so I don't typically use it as a primer, but when I'm applying makeup to someone else, this is one of my go-tos. So the finish of this primer just gives you that almost lit from within look. It's not going to be shimmery, it's not going to be glittery, it's just going to make you look youthful and glowy and radiant. So you can use it as a primer for that very subtle glow from within look, but my favorite ways to use it are, number one, as a highlighter. So if you have fair skin and you like a very natural looking highlighter, you can put this on over a foundation and all the places you would normally highlight, and it just gives the most natural glow to the skin. So even though it's a primer, don't be afraid to use it on top of your foundation. I also love this on its own. If you, like I said, have dry or dull skin and you're going for a no makeup day, but you want to add some life into your skin, this will do just that. But the way that I use it the most is to mix it in with a foundation. So if you have a normal foundation and you want to add some luminosity to it, you can just add a pump of this, mix it together, and then apply the foundation, and it's going to make any regular foundation become a luminous foundation. So it's like a DIY Lumi foundation ingredient. This is very similar to the Becca Backlight Primer as well as the MAC Strobe Cream. So if you've been curious about those types of products, this is definitely a great alternative. And then the last primer I want to mention is one that would be good for any skin type if you are just looking for a basic primer that's going to give you a smooth canvas, but it's not targeted toward dry or oily skin. This Wet n Wild primer based tint is a great one. I'm sure you guys have seen me use this before, and it reminds me of one of my favorite high-end primers, which is the Laura Geller Spackle. Comes out different. This one comes out white. The Laura Geller one comes out a clear consistency, but once you start rubbing them into the skin, they have a very similar effect. They just smooth everything out on dry or on oily skin and gives you that perfect canvas to start from. This is great for dry skin, and if you have oily skin, this is not going to make you any more oily. It's just going to even out any texture that you might have, and it really just feels like a lightweight moisturizer, very similar to the Catrice one, but this one doesn't get so tacky. So like I said, don't be afraid of it if you have dry skin, and is Wet n Wild, so it's super affordable. So that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click that subscribe button. And thank you guys so much for your continued support and all the sweet comments that you guys leave. I recognize your names and I read every single comment that you guys leave, and it means more to me than I can even tell you. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. So on that mushy note, I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks again for watching.